In the year 2000, I attended my very first Date with Destiny as a participant in Tampa Bay in Florida. And over the 6 days, I watched many participants put their hand up, stand up, and share with Tony and share with the audience. One after another, we saw many life, relationship, and emotional breakthroughs, all facilitated by Tony. People not only changed, they actually transformed over 1 or 2 hours, but sometimes in minutes. I was fascinated and I was so curious. How did Tony do this? Or what did he do in that intervention? And even a bigger question that was resting with me was, could others do this, or could I learn what Tony did? And in this training, we're pulling back the curtain and provide guidance around the background to those interventions and transformations. And we call this training intervention analysis. And here's why intervention analysis matters.
Thanks, James. So, one of the most important reasons why the ability to analyze interventions is important is the concept that pattern recognition, being able to recognize patterns, allows us to level up to pattern utilization. Can't utilize a pattern if I can't recognize it. And a great metaphor is playing guitar or any musician. If I'm going to be able to play a scale or chords, I need to be able to recognize it before I can then use it. The other really important reason why the ability to analyze interventions is important is for feedback. When you are a trainer delivering feedback to senior leaders on an intervention, or maybe they were doing shares in a team meeting, you need to be able to pay attention to what you're seeing and understand it so that you can then deliver feedback effectively. So, Solvene, what exactly is the idea of intervention analysis?
Exactly. So here we're going to see essential part so that you can see how and when you can grow your intervention analysis skills. First, we're going to cover the 3 levels of intervention analysis. Then we're going to review the main framework for intervention, which is, of course, the 7 master steps. And then we're going to review key elements of the path of meaning for step 1 that are typically uncovered each day at Date with Destiny. Then we're going to provide additional materials available for you. For example, we're going to see a great example of intervention analysis with a video of Olivia. And we're also going to give you additional video training to tap up your intervention skills. We're also going to share more information with you about what you can use your intervention analysis skills for, and particularly at events when you want to support Date with Destiny leadership, for example, at Date with Destiny event as well, and when you participate for tag team as well.
All right, so we've got a couple different levels, which Solvene alluded to, in terms of the ability to analyze interventions. The first level, we're going to call it entertainment. And usually that's participants who are watching. And this level is, you can imagine someone watching I'm Not Your Guru on Netflix. They can almost recognize that an intervention's happening. They see that Tony's doing an interaction. They don't really know if it's shares or if he's actually using some of the 7 master steps. So that first level, calling it entertainment, and that's basically the participant level. The next level up is where you have pattern recognition, and you start to develop those skills when you get to the level of Date with Destiny leadership. You've participated at Date with Destiny, you've done Leadership Academy, and you're at that last stage before you become a senior leader. Now you can notice when someone stands up and Tony's working with them that you remember some of the things you learned at Leadership Academy or at Date with Destiny leadership on those first 2 days. You can see Tony doing pattern interrupts. You can see him defining the problem in solvable terms. You can see him conditioning it. You can start to see some of these things. And so that's level 2, pattern recognition. The third level, pattern utilization, we like to think of that as the senior leader level. where you understand the 7 master steps, you have a pretty good command of them. You can watch Tony do an intervention and you can pick out which of the steps he's using fairly easily. And you can utilize them yourself. You can talk to a participant, maybe during a team meeting or a break. You can go into the private trainer room. You could maybe even be in PSR, and you can do interventions and effectively change someone's state. You can use the 7 master steps. The 4th level, pattern creation, we like to think of as the trainer level, and that's where there's now flexibility, there's adaptability. You can combine and merge tools, because often Tony's not just using one specific tool. He'll blend a couple of them. You can tailor it to the situation. You can think of pattern creation like the balloons of a CPH, or the guardian, the protector, the angel on your shoulder. You can think of it like when you're doing a collapse anchor, the submodalities, adding the color and the smell, and going beyond the fundamental knack skills, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And this is more advanced, so we're going to talk about it later. So that's the 4 different levels. We've got entertainment for participants, pattern recognition as Date with Destiny leadership participants. We've got pattern utilization as a senior leader, and ideally pattern creation as trainers. Now, a little piece on the path of meaning to set the foundation, to set the frame in the context, all of this in the context of analyzing interventions. So if you think about how the path of meaning applies, really it's step 1. It's the GPS, it's the map. You can imagine you're about to start an intervention, you're embarking on a journey. You need a map to know where you are and where you want to go. And you can kind of think of the path of meaning like a model of the world diagnostic tool. If you think about a doctor, their checklist is, I'm going to check blood pressure, I'm going to check your blood work for all your levels, I'm going to check your vitals. And then based on what they see, they know what to tackle. The path of meaning helps us see what's maybe off and then how to tackle it and how to solve it. And if you zoom all the way out to Date with Destiny, which Solvene hinted at earlier, Date with Destiny is basically walking through the path of meaning as a checklist. There's one day where it's spheres of influence, one day's values and rules, one day's masculine, feminine, and relationships, one day's levels of consciousness. And we go through the event, going through this checklist of making sure everything is refined and aligned and it all makes sense. In the context of analyzing interventions, you can think of step 1 as discovering the gap. Where is there a challenge? And then step 4 is defining the problem in solvable terms, which is really closing the gap. So maybe it's the spheres of influence are not aligned, they're the wrong size for where you want to go. Maybe the values are just in the wrong order. You value security above freedom. Maybe it's the rules. You have rules that are hard to feel good and it's really easy to feel bad. Maybe it's the masculine, feminine mask. It could even be the levels of consciousness where the color that you're bringing isn't serving. So the path of meaning in the context of analyzing interventions is a really helpful tool to understand when I'm watching an intervention. You can see where on the path of meaning you are, and you can anticipate, once you have discovered step 1, you can anticipate what step 4 is going to be. It's really just solving what you found in step 1. So we've kind of started to dive in a little bit, but let's take it back to the basics and let's go back to the fundamentals of the 7 master steps. James, take it away.
Thanks, Sergio. And as Sergio covered the path of meaning, really that is to understand the map and understand and appreciate somebody's world. And the 7 master steps really takes this on as the framework for observing interventions. It's a framework that Tony uses as his artistry within interventions. And as we start to analyze interventions, now we have 7 steps, and it gives a chance to really understand where Tony and the participant and the conversation is at. So Sergio just shared there the 7 master steps, the actual steps themselves. So let's just have a brief reconnect to those steps. So the first one is to connect and understand and appreciate their world. I think this one is fascinating. A participant stands up, and we're really interested in what or how Tony goes about to understand where they're at and where they want to get to. And as Sergio covered in the path of meaning, the map and the gap, where they're at, what's the gap, and how do we close that gap? So the first step is connect, appreciate their world. And you'll hear a question like, what's life all about? What's really going on? It's a great way just to understand their world. The second step is connect and get leverage. And really the outcome here, and we're observing in the intervention, is what's the leverage? Is it faith? Is it family? Is it health of the individual? Is it the relationship? Where is Tony almost probing a little bit to understand where there's leverage? And the outcome is, to get leverage so that not just change happens, but actual transformation. The third step, and again, I'm sharing these linearly, but in an intervention, Tony will jump 1, he'll go 4, he'll go 5, he'll go back to 2, as more information uncovers and unfolds. And the third step is to really annihilate the limiting pattern. And in some version of this, we see Tony scrambling the old triad, and as we move into 4 and 5 and closing the gap, we start to access a new triad at 5 in terms of a new physiology, a new focus. And of course, when we think about the triad, our physiology, our focus on a language, whatever our triad is, that supports us how we feel. So the transformation going from 3 to 5 is beautiful to watch in the artistry and craft with Tony. Step 4 is very much looking at defining the problem in solvable terms. And in simple terms, this is really supporting the participant so they hear themselves saying, what is it that they want? They'll share typically what they don't want when they stand up. And now this gets to the heart of what do they want? So as we analyze the actual intervention, we're always looking for this piece here, like they're focused here and they're not in such a great state. Now they're focused on what they want. And as we start to move into 5, then we start to really see the access and a new triad and new resources. And from that place, then we get a chance to see a participant grow, evolve, and transform before our eyes. And of course, step 6 then is, as that individual, that participant, as they access those great resources, those great feelings, and their empowerment, now it's actually how do they embrace it? How do they actually embody that new way forward and that new way of being, that new physiology, that new focus, and that new language? And again, we notice how Tony really supports that just by conditioning it and asking the person, using the music in the room and using the power of the audience to really support the person as they actually make the transformation live in the room. And then as we move into step 7, it's really, and sometimes we see this a lot in an intervention and sometimes very little. Where we see it sometimes is where Tony will ask, well, who here who here can support you moving forward? Who will be in your peer group? What will be your systems of support? And of course, in that, it allows the participant to actually future pace and to really think about going forward as they're going forward home from Date with Destiny, from an event, then what will be those systems of support that will really condition and anchor in that transformation and the change that they have experienced while being in the room. So there's many questions that we see in the 7 master steps. Early on, we're hearing what's life all about. And then as we start to get into the middle part of an intervention, it's really what is it that they want or need after Tony really supports in getting leverage and really empowering the participant to find leverage within themselves. And of course, as we go to step 6 and step 7 particularly, is what will this mean for you going forward? And this is a beautiful framework to have beside you as you observe an intervention, because Tony will be somewhere, we're not sure where. It could be 1, it could be 4, it could be 6, it could be back to 2, it could be more of 2, it could be even more of 2 and 3, and then moving forward. So just having this in front of us, it gives an opportunity to analyze the live intervention as it's happening in the room. So with that, I might pass it over to Solvene.
Well, really quick, just before we pass it to Solvene, a couple notes on that, James, and that was a really great example of going through the 7 master steps with some of the questions that we might encounter. And you mentioned this in the middle, but it's a really important point. One of the things to remember is that it's not always linear. It'll flow between the steps. And the outcome isn't to just go through all the steps. The outcome is to move them to a breakthrough, to a new decision, a new insight, a new standard. Another piece to understand with once you have the basics down is that sometimes some things that you notice when you're analyzing interventions may not fit exactly in one or another step. There might be a gray area. And a good example is a scramble or a swish. Both of these are conditioning tools, but they also could be perceived as step 3, interrupt the pattern. With an NOFD, we love to also call that a conditioning tool. A lot of these tools where you do the thing over and over, it's going to be conditioning. But in an NOFD, you're stepping into a role model or they're stepping into you. And that could be also seen as step 5, accessing empowering resources. So when you're analyzing an intervention, there isn't necessarily a right or wrong. There's kind of just ones that seem to fit better. But it's important to understand, and even the 5 NAC skills, we've got anchoring, collapse anchor, phobia cure, NOFD, CPH, all of those fit into the 7 master steps in certain ways and in their own ways. And it's important to know that they may not always fit perfectly. So Solvene, I know you wanted to talk about the next piece, which is when we have the opportunity to analyze interventions.
Exactly. We have so many great opportunity to analyze intervention at Tony's event, right? And obviously, Date with Destiny, of course, is a great, large event when we have many opportunity to actually see Tony live doing intervention, for example. And I'm sure you appreciate that. And we're all eager sometimes to see new intervention coming in and see Tony's magic, right? I also love seeing some other facilitators as well, like Scott, Joseph, Tad as well. When they ask powerful questions to the audience as well, it's a great opportunity to see more intervention and maybe observe new style, and maybe you might have more role model amongst them as well. So I really encourage you to be attentive anytime when there is a, intervention, Tony Live intervention and facilitator questioning the audience as well. Anything is an opportunity to learn as well. Of course, we have a lot of Tony's video. You're going to have a great example of intervention analysis actually on Tony old video with a participant called Olivia. You're going to find more information about how to find this video. And it's actually a great video example on intervention analysis with all the steps that Tony is getting through. And I really encourage you to watch this video attentively and analyze each step that Tony is using. And I really enjoy each time I see Tony doing analysis, write down each question he asks and why he asked them and the result that he get from that. So I really encourage you to watch this video, Olivia's video, have a look for it. And in general as well, we have a lot of opportunity, of course, to analyze intervention with your amazing team, right? In Zoom, for example. So, I really encourage you to observe your team members, your trainer, the other senior leader in your room as well, and get practice, get more practice during the team meeting at breaks as well. And, ask yourself, what are the steps sometimes we tend to use the most in Zoom? Sometimes we really need to be fast and getting and help people get to where they need to go quite quickly, all right? So, of course, we use step one a lot, as mentioned before by James and Sergio, getting rapport with the participant, connect with them, understanding the model of the world. And they really connect with data destiny content, right? With the path of meaning that Sergio mentioned, the primary question, the values, and so on. So we use step one a lot, connect with them, listen to them, be really present with them. That's so, so important, right? Getting to know them and loving them, right? And I love the step three as well, because when we need to be quick and fast, we need to interrupt the limiting patterns. Sometimes we recognize language patterns that are really quick to shift as well. What we do also is that we scramble the all primary question, right? At Date with Destiny, we sometimes need to shift the focus quickly, and then we can do that very quickly and efficiently, right? We use the step 5 as well, getting them to a restful state. We use the power virtue, the incantation, the new primary question, the new focus that they have, the anchoring, and so on. We use many processes for step 5 as well. And of course, as it was mentioned before here, you might remember a lot actually, and seeing your trainer often asking this question for step 7, how is it going to impact your life going forward, and so on, and getting the person to the new identity, and getting, let them, connect as a team to their peer group, and so on. So there's many steps here that we can really experience and grow from, and practice more in a team meeting and break as well. So I really encourage you to do so. And the objective here, as mentioned before, is really to become great at pattern recognition and utilization, and have fun with it, right? So what else? What else can we use our intervention skill for? Tag team, we mentioned it before. So I really encourage you to practice and grow further with tag team. As you know, quickly here, the objective of tag team is for the senior leader to really act together as one person doing intervention using the 7 master step to help the challenge trainer towards the transformation. So it's really a great opportunity to practice. And for this, I really encourage you to review the existing content and video that you can find in the TSLC training platform, which is amazing. You have great content in there. So I really encourage you to review that and practice and join the tag team and practice more and more, and do it with fun. We have a lot of unconscious learning also going on with fun and practice and doing it together. And take this opportunity as well to observe your peers doing interventions as well. You might pick up great ideas and great patterns that they are using, and really focus on listening, being fully present and listen. That's how we learn a lot unconsciously as well, I said before. And with that, you will naturally know where to pick up and transition smoothly during the tag team, as well as one person doing intervention. You will get better more and more with practice and giving quality specific feedback as well, and give better distinction for tag team as well. And as a future trainer, you would get better at tagging with a greater level of awareness as well, and what is needed and when. So I really encourage you to join the tag team, have fun with that. Join the tag team trainings as much as you can. James?
So thank you, Solvene. So just let's recap on intervention analysis. 2 of the primary resources to support you to analyze interventions was what Sergio covered in the path of meaning. So even taking that skill and bringing it forward, and the map of the path of meaning, and the actual download of the map of the 7 master steps and the framework for the 7 master steps. Those 2 resources would be really powerful as you sit in a live room with Tony, or virtual, that you have those resources beside you as you analyze the intervention. And of course, on Slack as well, we will have, sometimes the live thread and feed going through for trainers and senior leaders to be able to see real time what other trainers and senior leaders what they're absorbing, what they're noticing, what they're interpreting from the intervention. So it'll allow us all to grow together and to learn together. And that's just a reminder that we're not alone in this. Like if we're sitting beside somebody during a date with Destiny or online, keep asking each other questions and keep supporting each other around the interventions, because this is a beautiful, beautiful skill as we start to observe Tony at his awesome best. And we, as the privilege that we have to be able to observe these interventions is huge. So I'd also encourage you when you get a chance, what Solvene has just shared, if you get a practice in tag teams, that will also really support you. And anytime you get the opportunity to watch the videos around the interventions, please do that as well. It'll be very, 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 very powerful. So to close out the intervention analysis training, I might hand it over to Solvene.
Thank you, James. So what is the next step for you now? What can you do now to focus on growing your skill and brush up your intervention skills in general? So first thing, I really encourage you to review all the resources that you have at your disposal. You have the TSLC Training Platform Hub. You have amazing training video and content in there on the 7 master step, on the ANC skills. You'll also find the video of intervention analysis of Olivia as well. You will find video on tertiary acuity that has been done as well to help you for the step 1 as well. You will find a section specific for tag team as well. And you will find also a specific video on how to best support Date with Destiny leadership. I'm sure a lot of you are interested to learn more about this. And here you will learn how to lead a Date with Destiny leadership pod, with Deborah's form and so on, and the tools that are at your disposal for that. And you will also learn how to set up an intervention analysis in Slack. Cool, right? So let's go for it. And on top of that, remember that we also have amazing training materials with Robin Smadana's training as well. I encourage you to go watch most of them as well. And also really have fun, go practice. As we mentioned already, prep yourself for the tag team, practice it, do it, have fun with it, know the step, be ready to pick up and have fun with that. Practice, practice, practice. And of course, come and support the best Date with Destiny in the history of the universe. And see you very soon. Bye.